Hello there. Well, pedestrians don't matter. And today in this short video, I'm going to demonstrate why that is in a few instances around the city of Glasgow. Just yesterday, at the junction behind me, I was crossing the road. I looked at the line of traffic on the Barton Road. One vehicle was indicated to turn down the street here. I let it go. I looked again. Other vehicles, nobody was indicating or showing any intention of turning down here. I stepped onto the road. I looked up and there was a vehicle turning to go down the side street here. I don't know why I'm smiling or laughing. This was a vehicle that in a fraction of a second had decided to indicate and turn, and not even on this side of the road, partially over the other side of the road. It was a kind of split, an instant decision, possibly to avoid oncoming vehicles on the Barton Road, I'm not sure. I looked up, saw it, and I thought, well, I was on the road here before you even indicated, so I have the right of way. But at the end of the day, you can't argue with a huge lump of metal, and especially one that was showing no indication whatsoever that it was going to stop. The car wasn't moving fast, it was moving fairly slowly, but it was not about to stop. And I had to leap out the way to avoid getting hit. Now that's just an astonishing level of, just a really bad display of driving. As I turned to look at the driver, I think it was a Chinese woman, she gave a little wave. I don't know if it was a sarcastic wave or a little wave to say, sorry. Well, sorry's not really good enough, because one of the main attributes of being a driver of a vehicle is you have to be able to look where you're going. And if you're not able to accomplish that small feat, you shouldn't be driving a vehicle. It just annoyed me a lot. I was at the shouting and bawling stage, making a fool of myself, wandering along the Barton Road here. I'm just so angry. And not far from here, I'll show you another example of why some drivers simply can't drive their vehicle, and why it's becoming very dangerous for pedestrians out there. Just before we get to the other location, this is just another small example of why pedestrians don't matter anymore. As part of the pedestrian crossing, you're supposed to press the button, the wait word lights up, but it doesn't work. And you've actually got to press the button in order for the system to know that pedestrians are wanting to cross a road, otherwise you won't get a green man and you won't be able to cross the road. But if the light's not working, pedestrians don't know that it's been pressed, so you get countless pedestrians coming along pressing the button needlessly. It's just another example that pedestrians don't matter. As I say, nobody checks this, obviously. I think the lights were replaced a good few months back, but for whatever reason they failed. Maybe bulbs made in China. Well, I'm close to the junction between the River Clyde and the River Kelvin, at the back of some student accommodation, much of which will be occupied by Chinese students. And this is probably what you might term a kind of goods lane, maybe to kind of vehicles who've got up here to deliver goods and maybe uplift things. There's 4 lampposts on the pavement. They've all been hit by vehicles reversing. When I say vehicles, I'm guessing, I can't imagine it was the one vehicle that ran amok, knocking down all 4 lampposts. It's just going to be different vehicles at different times, each having a go at one lamppost each. And you know, some of these lampposts have been hit or knocked over more than once. The 2 lampposts at the top have been moved back from the pavement's edge so they don't get hit again. You can see behind me there is one that's totally fallen over. It's been hit and laid horizontal, and there's another one at the end at a jaunty angle. It's a clear demonstration of vehicle drivers who are simply not able to drive their vehicle. They haven't quite mastered the art of reversing. It's not as if it's a hugely narrow lane. How is this possible? How can we have drivers that can't drive? It's astonishing, really. What I also find astonishing is the number of vehicles that I see with only one front light working. That's a lot of car drivers who don't really care about their vehicle. They don't care about maintaining their vehicle. And if they don't care about that, maybe they don't care about other things, like looking where they're going. And certainly as far as reversing is concerned, that's certainly the case in this lane. But we'll go to Byers Road now. It's a new all-singing, all-dancing traffic scheme for cars, cyclists, pedestrians. But once again, pedestrians are second-class citizens here, as we're going to find out. Well, this is Byers Road's new traffic scheme. Bit for cars, bit for bicycles, pedestrians, And one of the main issues with this new scheme is, you can see just behind me, there's no entry signs for the side street off Byers Road. It's actually on the division between the cycleway and the pedestrian footpath. In other words, as a pedestrian, you can't see that sign. You don't know which way cars are coming from. You think, oh, they're coming from the left, coming from the right. It's just another example of pedestrians being left in the dark and being left out of the equation as far as road schemes are concerned. As a pedestrian, I would want to see that sign moved further back to the other side of the pavement so that I can see that that's a no entry, that cars are going to be coming one way towards Byers Road. This is just another example of how difficult life can be in this modern, uncaring world for pedestrians. This is the Clyde walkway beside the River Clyde. It's a shared use walkway for both cyclists and pedestrians. I suppose the idea is that cyclists and pedestrians can mingle with each other and they'll all get on and there won't be any problems at all. Rubbish. Cyclists and walkers can't mix. You need a white line on routes like this, a bit for cyclists, a bit for pedestrians. And people probably argue and say, but there's not been many accidents or maybe no accidents. I couldn't give a monkey's. I don't feel safe as a pedestrian when I'm walking here, and I like walking by water. As I'm walking and ambling along on a nice sunny day, admiring all the stuff that's going on by the river, I can't properly relax because I'm conscious of the fact that if I see something that I want to have a closer look at, I can't suddenly move to one side of the other of this path or route here because I'm conscious of the fact that a cyclist could just be coming up behind me at speed, as they sometimes do. I'm not really having a go at cyclists here, but they're just like man in general, there are going to be idiots amongst them. It's just, I don't feel safe walking here. So can we maybe get a white line or something? Introduce a bit of common sense into this world? Is that too much to ask? Okay, I'm going to end here because I think this is a good example of where we've gone wrong and why pedestrians can struggle as far as traffic is concerned. This is a road layout that can be seen in other parts of the city, at the Squinty Bridge, in the Broomy Law, etc. You've got two separate roads here. excuse me, looks like a dual carriageway. And that's the core of the problem. It's not a dual carriageway. It's not like you have cars moving one way on that side and cars moving the other way on the other side. You've got cars moving both ways on this side, and you have buses moving both ways on this side. And as a pedestrian, I mean, pedestrians are encouraged and supposed to cross roads at controlled crossings, pedestrian crossings, where it's safe to do so. Shouldn't really be crossing the road at other places, but realistically it happens. And if you just have a moment's attentiveness and you forget that vehicles are actually going one way rather than the other, and you just step onto the road, you end up getting injured or killed or whatever. It's very, very dangerous. I think these road layouts are just a bit of a nightmare, really. You just don't know which way traffic's coming from. And I think this constant desire to change roads layouts, you see it in Glasgow city centre. Sometimes there's been changes where you've now got a one-way street, so it used to be both ways, or maybe it's used to be a one-way street, now it's both ways, or you just don't know which direction vehicles are coming from, which I think we saw up Byers Road. And it is a recipe for disaster. Last year in Scotland, the number of pedestrian deaths where pedestrians were hit and killed by a vehicle increased by 40%. And that's a pretty stark statistic, and in many ways it's hardly surprising. I'm Eddie Burns, take care.